Hi, I am Gigi. I'm an ex-Amazon bar raiser and senior leader here at Day One Careers. So a very hot topic for job seekers is the ATS, Applicant Tracking System. So many people spend hours of time and even thousands of pounds, dollars, you pick your currency, on the goal to get my CV past the ATS. With the level of competition for Amazon roles, this goal of get my CV past the ATS seems to be a hyper issue for Amazon applicants, which is, I guess, why you're here. Now, before we go on, just a quick heads up. I'm also releasing a version of this video using the term resume instead of CV. That's because in Europe, the term CV is used in the same way other countries use resume, and I wanted to make sure I captured you all. So don't watch that one if you've watched this one, and make sure you stay until the end for an amazing free course that I have to give you. Okay, so moving on, let's start with the basics. No one cannot get past the ATS because it's not a barrier to get past. It's a software system that stores and creates workflows from information that is added to it. So think of it as like a digital assistant that helps companies manage their hiring process. An applicant tracking system is effectively a piece of software designed to streamline and automate for the recruitment process, from posting job openings to selecting candidates for interviews. It acts as a centralized database for all job applicants, making it easier for recruiters and hiring managers to organize, search, and filter through CVs. So, with that in mind, what do you really mean when you come to me with the goal of get my CV past the ATS? Well, the only thing you can really mean is get my CV noticed by an Amazon recruiter. So that's the first thing you need to do. Change your goal. But before we talk about this new goal, I'm going to have to address some of the key myths, objections, concerns I know you all have about this topic. Now, I'm going to start with a disclaimer. I am not a recruiter. I have never been a recruiter, and I have never used the recruiter features of the Amazon ATS. Note, I have, however, used the Amazon ATS as an interviewer and hiring manager. However, I've spent a lot of time learning about this subject, listening to Amazon recruiters about how they use the ATS, as well as other recruiters, and even content from CEOs of ATS software companies in an attempt to try and understand this topic better. Now, a lot of rage happens out there with candidates who, okay, don't get me wrong, I totally understand being a job seeker is an exhausting, horrible, stressful, and often demoralizing situation to be in. But I see frustration from job seekers who are convinced they're being blocked by a system from a recruiter seeing their CV. Instances such as kind of instant rejections, rejection emails sent in the middle of the night or early hours of the morning, or a high percentage match on a CV review site not reflecting the outcome, is evidence or cited as evidence that the ATS is the culprit behind their rejection. So let's just cover these quickly. We're going to start with knockout questions, which may lead your application to be rejected almost instantly. Recruiters will have an option in most major ATS to implement knockout questions. These knockout questions would disqualify you from the role, even if the recruiter wasn't using an ATS for the intake. No matter how great the rest of your CV, if the hiring manager or company has a criteria that is a non-negotiable and you don't meet it, then you're going to get knocked out of the process immediately. The ATS simply provides an automated way of filtering out those that fail to meet that criteria. The ATS is not making a decision. A human has added that filter in. So how do you avoid falling foul of these knockout questions at Amazon? Well, what you really need to do is read the basic qualifications described on the job description. If you don't meet these basic qualifications, then just don't apply for the role. These basic qualifications are what the hiring manager considers non-negotiable. If you have the basic qualifications, then make sure you've captured them in your CV in a similar expression as the job description to make sure they're picked up. Moving on then to the phenomena of rejection emails being sent at unsociable hours. Now, this is super easy to explain. 3 possibilities here. Yep, 3. 1, there is a workflow built into the ATS that sends emails automatically between certain hours. Maybe, say, when the company's servers are less busy with office hours, email traffic, etc. 2, the recruiter working on your role may not be based in the same geolocation as you. An email in the middle of the night to you can easily be mid-afternoon for someone in another country. And 3, your recruiter is incredibly overworked and they're having to send their rejection emails after hours just to fit everything in. I hope that's not the case. So finally, a quick stop into this opaque world of CV matching scanners where you can use a website somewhere to input your job description and your CV, and it'll tell you how close a match your CV is to it. Now, exactly how these tools derive that match isn't well understood. I'm assuming there's a level of protectionism over the IP of such systems. So with that said, it is completely unclear if the matching variables and weighted contributions they've used to devise your match is how the recruiter views your CV. As I understand it, there are ATS that also have kind of a matching ranking feature, and it's my understanding that some, but not all recruiters make use of this feature. I have, however, never heard an Amazon recruiter claim to use this feature. Every Amazon recruiter I know tells me they read every CV. So hopefully I provided some clarity as to why it isn't some nameless robot that is presiding over your destiny. Let's go back to the goal we agreed earlier. Okay, well, I said we agreed, I agreed, and well, I have no idea if you agreed or not, but I'll assume you did if you're still here. So get my CV noticed by an Amazon recruiter. That is our goal. The first thing to consider is format. Unless you're applying for some type of graphic design role, avoid anything creative like the plague. I've seen some candidates thinking they're being super clever by designing a CV that looks like an Amazon.com page. Amazon recruiters don't want that. I promise you, they don't want that. They're hard to visually navigate for content when the only thing your Amazon recruiter cares about in your CV is, in fact, the content. Totally counterproductive exercise. So, plain text enhanced by some selective underlining and bolding. I recommend the font Calibri size 10 because it's the common font used in Amazon internal documents. It's not going to make a difference if you use another plain text font like, let's say, Arial, but you have to pick one, so hey, you may as well pick the one that recruiters are used to looking at. Also, avoid tables and graphs, and for the love of God, please don't include any of those self-rating icon thingies. They're data points that just are not backed by any evidence, so again, they are completely pointless. So now we have a nice clean document, which is easy to read. Now, if you want to grab the recruiter's attention, a nice summary can be your golden ticket. Now, historically, I am not a fan of summaries on CVs because usually they are simply a paragraph stuffed full of cliches and soft skills. For example, team player, ambitious, customer focused. You get the picture. So if you're going to use one, make it specific and data rich and touch on some of the key requirements from the job description along with a tasty impact metric. If you can quickly demonstrate you have some key qualifications and you have delivered for your previous employers, this should grab the recruiter's attention. Moving on in our goal to get my CV noticed by an Amazon recruiter, I'm going to tell you to ditch the skills section, unless they are technical skills or qualifications. No recruiter wants to be faced with a wall of bullet points of generic or soft skills like negotiation, customer relationship management, analysis, team management, and so on. At best, they'll skip it. At worst, it will put them in a negative frame of mind for the rest of the content. Then it's on to work history. Now, there are different schools of thought if this should be done in chronological order. If you want my opinion, and I assume you do, or you wouldn't be here watching me, I personally would stick with the traditional chronological. Again, because recruiters are used to seeing it that way. And really, you want all of their kind of cognitive load focused on absorbing your content and not redirecting it towards deciphering format decisions that you've made. And so, on to how I recommend presenting your work history to get your CV noticed by an Amazon recruiter. I'm sure you've heard of the STAR model for interviewing. Well, I think the STAR model can actually also be applied to CVs. Let's start with situation. In other words, who are you working for and what did you do for them? So, name who you worked for with the dates, and in addition, unless they're a big, well-known name, add what the company does. On so many occasions, I've found myself having to do research on Google to even work out what the company does. So please don't make your recruiter jump through that hoop. Then explain in one sentence what your role was and what you were employed to achieve. Now we know what the situation you were in, let's move on to task. In other words, what were your specific responsibilities? I like this task responsibilities section because it allows you to demonstrate the functional skills you have, which ideally match those described in the job description. Now, there's no doubt that to get your recruiter to really notice your CV, you're going to have to provide some evidence of achievements in these functional skills. But you're unlikely to have impressive numbers for all of them. So this section allows you to cover what functional skills you bring to the table to match those asked for in the job description. You might want to combine 2 or 3 into a sentence so it doesn't look like just a big list ripped from the job description and shoved into your CV. Make sure you don't miss the basic requirements. Now, I'm not claiming this section is a must. Plenty of CVs have made it to hiring managers without having this. But I personally think it makes it super easy for your recruiter to see where you match the skills requirement of the role. Then results. Here is where you seal the deal and show how effective you've been in the deployment of your functional skills. To get my CV noticed by an Amazon recruiter, absolutely must include data points on how you've impacted your employer's business through using the functional skills you've mentioned in the task section. In an ideal world, they'll want to see the metric you achieved. It can be an absolute or a percentage. Also, how this compares to your goal or how this compares to the norm or maybe prior periods. In other words, here's the data about the great thing that I did, and here's some supporting data to show you why it really was great. By making your CV easy to read and making sure the content reflects the requirements of the job description and provides evidence of how valuable your impact has been to previous employers, you will get my CV noticed by an Amazon recruiter. Now, what you need to do is click the link here to claim your free Day One Careers Customer Obsession Taster course. Watch that and you'll nail every customer obsession question asked of you in your Amazon interview. Or if you want to do that a little bit later, why don't you check out more here of our incredible insights and advice on Amazon interview preparation.